Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here to listen to more about the power of journaling. I am so excited to have two of my favorite people. And Anne and I have been in a class together recently, and then Josie and I have not been. So this is super fun, and they've never met each other. So I love doing this. I'm now like, okay, the whole premise of the power of journaling coffee talk was really born from that Saturday Night Live skit. Do you guys remember the Mike Myers Saturday Night Live skit? And Dave,
Yes.
yes, where it was like coffee talk, and then they would just like get their friends on and just like talk about trash about whatever people. And I just loved it. And I was like, it's like I just want to talk about that, but in regards to journaling. So that was kind of the premise of it. And I'm so happy. So thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules. I know that you can do a lot of things with your time. So I really appreciate you both being here. So thank you.
You're
Thank
so welcome.
you.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I'd love to have you guys introduce yourselves, say what you do for a living, where you live, and really just how journaling has impacted your life. So why don't we get started with Anne in Moody Lighting.
Yes, in my moody lighting.
Mhm.
Hi, my name is Anne Adams. I live in England, in a town called Whitstable. My day job is I am a PA for Adult Social Care and Health to the Assistant Director of Adult Social Care and Health. And my passion for why I try to do it is I'm a writer. I love to write fiction. So that's me.
And then, so we reconnected. I think I was doing coaching videos, right? Which I do
Yes,
coaching videos almost every day.
yes.
You found them somehow.
I found them,
You
devoured
found
them. Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Which is great because I'm always like, especially if you're listening and you are in a place of like, does it even matter what I'm putting out there, what I'm doing, especially if you're a business owner? The answer is yes, it does. Because then you tell me that, Anne, and I'm like, and that is why I did all of those videos and it was like crickets, except then there's like the one person that was devouring them and it was helpful.
Yes, exactly when I needed it.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally on some days got me out of bed. So yeah, you never know
I
what
never
you're
know.
doing, the impact it has. Yeah.
Well, and I never knew 15 years ago when I started journaling that I would teach it, that I would say that, like, if you only learn one thing in the world to help yourself, have it be this. And so that's why I brought you guys here today to share a little bit about what that experience was like. So, Anne, if you wouldn't mind just jumping in with,
Sure.
because I
Yeah.
think you
So
journaled before.
no, so I've
Or no?
I write, so I've always read, I've written plays and I've written fiction, short stories, but I've never journaled
Mm-hmm.
until I met you. Well, until I met you, until I reconnected with you.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I've never written from a place before of asking myself questions or
Mm.
really internally investigating about who I am, where I'm at. I've always got lost. I love getting lost in characters and other people's situations, but I've never, really divulged into my own situation. And then I lost my mom and my sister within 2 years of each other, both had cancer. And the grief, was very intense. And I was doing all the things. I was in therapy. I was praying. I was telling all my people, like, to make sure I had a support system. I was doing all the things that they say that you're supposed to do to keep your mental health, I guess, above water. And just something was not, it's not right. And so I just remember, I think Anna, you and I had talked about it, that I'd fallen into this trap of apathy. I was got to a point where I was very numb and just very kind of shrugging my shoulders at the meaning really of anything. Because obviously, I mean, I didn't know who I was. And I remember seeing your coaching videos and talking about the power of journaling. And I just thought it was so ironic. It's like, well, I'm a writer. I write, like, and writing's great, but it doesn't fix anything. Little did I know, it's completely different,
It's totally different.
totally different. So yeah, I just spent about I'd say about a month just watching your videos, being really resistant to it.
Yes.
Like,
Oh, I just have to say that
yeah,
whatever you are resisting is the door to walk through. Because
yes.
I was somebody that hated journaling. I didn't just hate journaling, I also didn't like people who journaled. I was like, they seem like losers.
Yes.
Haha, joke's on me. So, yes,
Yeah,
you're
exactly. And also
resisting
just,
it.
yes. And also just because it was such a simple thing, like just writing
Yeah.
down, it's like, it's not that
You're like,
simple.
it
I
can't
just had
work.
every excuse
It
as
can't
to
work.
why that's not going to work for me. But I kept coming, something, God, the universe, whatever, kept having me kind of at least get up out of bed every day and come back to your videos. And then when I decided to take your course and I started journaling, um, I'd say about 2 weeks before your course that I took. And really what happened is I feel like I'm 43 years old and I feel like for the first time in my life, like I actually know who I am and what I want. I know where I've been, and I know specifically what I need to let go of in order to have a quality of life that I feel like I deserve. So it's
Yeah.
really potent because I've never had that. And I just, all the range of emotions, I went from apathy to, excitement, then anger, like the anger started to show through the grief.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
I had anger at losing my mom and sister, obviously, but also my relationships with them, where it was cut short and what our relationships were like, everything that was lost, but also everything that was never meant to be or would be. And I really struggled with accepting things in my
Mm.
situation as it was. And I also had a really hard time being accountable or putting myself in the scenarios as to why certain things have played out in my life. So the journaling provided a really safe space to just really go there. And I feel like I've had people say I'm an honest, insightful person, perceptive or whatever. And I mean, the amount of things that I repressed, the lies that I had covered up and that I've hid so deep that not even to myself was I aware
Yeah.
until I wrote it
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. 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 Because
So
we so
really,
frequently aren't even aware. It's not like
yeah,
we're just walking around liars, right? You're just walking around like just in a big old blind spot. You're just walking around. You're like, I had no idea. Like I'm still uncovering things 15 years later. I'm like, well, shit, I sure have done that. Didn't even
yeah,
know that. Didn't even know it.
yeah. And I think just how much blame I've put on others and it was always, even though I made some kind of a cooler way of phrasing it, basically it was always someone else's fault
Mm,
about what happened to me or
mm,
whatever. And through the writing, it was like the safe space that I felt, maybe because I didn't feel there was no one there to judge or
yeah.
shame me or whatever it was. And I just let it rip.
Yeah.
And it really, I think saying the shame out loud through the journaling, and I think you and I have also talked about this, was really what helped me through the grief of just like, you can't heal. You can't heal from the grief. You can't physically, mentally, emotionally, anything if you don't speak the thing or say the thing out loud, say the shame that is stuck to me. And I went through the whole reconnect with you. I think it was a 12-week course. And
Yeah.
it took me to the last week before, you know,
I don't coach it till the last week because I also know it takes people a long time.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's by design. That's by
yeah,
design.
yeah,
Because it takes a while to get your legs underneath you,
yeah,
right? And to feel safe enough in the group, but also with yourself, that if you say the worst thing,
yeah,
you won't die.
yes.
Yeah.
And that is the thing I think the journaling is because also the great thing about journaling is it really steered me away from the comparison bit. I think we talked too.
Yeah.
I was grieving, I used to go on social media or other forms. And, I just was constantly comparing. I was just never inside myself. I was never seeking the truth inwards. I was always looking for external factors or to kind of lead me. And I think what I realized is like even through naming my journey or writing about it and also writing about my responsibility in that is that I think the beautiful thing now what I realize is to not be afraid of the mistakes I've made or the moments where I have had a part in that. It's like there's power in that. And I think it's you've also said something before that really helped me is like instead of being defensive,
Mhm.
what if you interchange that with being curious? Why
Mhm.
do I do these things? Why
Mhm.
do I why do I have this pattern?
Mhm.
Why,
Mhm.
versus trying to protect myself
Mhm.
um and getting, judgmental at other people, which
Mhm.
is so tiring. And the journaling
Mhm.
really helps that curiosity for me. It really helped
Mhm.
me get uber curious about what is going on. So,
Mhm. I
yeah.
love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. How about you, Josie?
Wow, everything Ann said, I mean, same. Like there are so many things that I'm like, yep, yep, yep,
Mhm.
yep, I
Mhm.
agree. Um, I didn't introduce myself yet, so I'll just do that real quick. I'm
Yeah.
Josie Smith from Houston, everybody. I own an energy healing business and I do fitness coaching online as well. Um, okay, Ann. I mean, Anna, Ann.
Oh,
So
sorry.
where do I know where do I start? So you wanted to kind of wanted
I
me
just
to
want to,
share,
yeah, hear about the difference that journaling has made in your life because, we came into each other's lives a long time ago and then
right,
reconnected in 2020 when I first really started coaching journaling. And you were in that
right.
class. When I read the testimonial that you sent, I, I couldn't, I mean, I can barely read it sometimes because it like
Mm,
is so, um, it's just so important
thank you.
what you shared. And, I can really get uncomfortable with like that I helped you do that. Sometimes like it can feel like, oh no, I don't want to look at no, that's too much.
Yeah.
um and Derek said, like, have you read what Josie read? And I was like, well, I mean, I think I saw it. He was like, no, you need to sit down and read
Wow.
what Josie wrote. And I just love that I was a small part of that and it's gone on, that it's really
Hmm.
been like I didn't realize because I, have the assumption a lot of times that people do a class with me and then they never journal again. So
Mm,
I loved hearing that that was not the case for you.
no, 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 no. So that was in 2020. So unlike
Yeah.
Anne, my mom passed away she passed away in 2019. So when I don't even know because when you were advertising for the artist way, I mean, I was like, I'm not an artist. I was relating to it like, oh, you have to be a writer
Yeah.
or, dancer or art, like a painter or something like that. So, but I remember at the time, the way you spoke about the program, I'm like, I'll try it out. Cause the same thing with Anne, like the therapy and, praying. And it was just like, yeah, I don't know. And this is new. I don't know what I need. Some people were telling me I was depressed and I'm like, what is depressed? Like I don't just had no tools, right? And I've always when I looked back at how I would do things as a child, I would always doodle. But now when I started journaling, especially in the artist way, I learned that I was actually channeling. Information was coming through and I was just putting it on paper and I could look at what I doodle and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember what I was thinking at that time. But if anybody else looked at it, they're like, what is this? Like, what's going on? It was just information coming in. So when I started the artist way and I was going through the grief, I just allowed myself to just throw up on the pages, and it was that like Anne spoke about the vulnerability of just the shame, the guilt, I just noticed like my tone would be different sometimes. And I think I've talked to you about that before. Like the tone that I was writing, sometimes I felt like I was a 5 year old and then my handwriting changed. It's almost
Mhm.
like it went back to a 5 year old state. So,
Mhm.
so much was coming up. And I also noticed that things that I didn't allow myself to say out loud because of you shouldn't say that, or no, it wasn't that way. And we make excuses to try to deal with sometimes our pain, like
Yeah.
they were young or whatever the case be, but may have been. But I started to notice, like, as I was writing, I was allowing myself to say those nasty, those ugly things,
Oh,
and that
yeah.
I was angry, because it's hard to, growing up, like, in church, sometimes you'll learn you shouldn't question God or you shouldn't ask questions, but, so I actually allowed myself to be angry because right after I lost my mom, my dad got sick. So then it was just like, okay, so my mom and now my dad, like I'm about to lose my dad. So it was a lot of
Yeah.
anger, but I wasn't saying that because I kind of felt bad
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
So, but on the pages, it was just like, oh, I do feel this way. Oh, I am angry. Oh, it is coming out. I'm not. So I allowed myself to just go through that. And then I just started to feel different. So I'm like, oh, wow, this is something. I saw that it was like self therapy a little bit. Like, I can move, I can allow the emotions and whatever I'm feeling to come out on a page. And I'm starting to feel different.
Yep.
Like she said, you go from anger to, all of these different levels. I'm not feeling like hopeless. Like I just don't know what to do when I wake up anymore. I'm kind of feeling a little better. And it just got, the weight just seems like it got lighter and lighter as I went through. And I still journal every day. Like
Yeah.
that's like a gift I give to myself on my birthday a lot. My boyfriend actually went to the store the other day to find a journal because he was like, I know you're gonna need one in a little bit. You're almost done with this one. So yeah, it's definitely been a part of my life.
I love that. So if it's all right, could I read? Well, yeah, it's all right because you gave it to me as a testimonial. Can I read
Right.
what you wrote?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so this is what Josie wrote to me. That needs to go on the website, but my web designer is taking care of the children right now. So okay. So you wrote, before I embarked on my journaling journey with Anna, I was drowning in grief and overwhelming dissatisfaction following the loss of my beloved mother. Every morning I'd meet the pages, and little did I know those pages would become my sanctuary for healing. They provided me with a lifeline to navigate the turbulent sea of emotions that had once left me feeling mentally and emotionally adrift. As I faithfully continued my journaling practice, something remarkable started to happen. A subtle transformation took hold, and I began to sense a glimmer of hope rekindling within me. Now, 4 years later, I still eagerly meet the pages with my trusty pen each morning, eagerly anticipating the profound revelations I'll uncover as I delve into the recesses of my own thoughts. I am eternally grateful or thankful for this deceptively simple yet incredibly potent tool that is journaling. It has become my steadfast companion, a practice I can turn to whenever life veers into chaos and feels unmanageable. Anna's course in the power of journaling have provided me with a source of solace and resilience that I can rely on forever. I am profoundly grateful for this transformative gift.
Mhm.
So I just have to say, when I read that, Josie, that's why I teach it.
Mhm.
Because when things are going haywire, that's a nice way to say it, right? When they're just totally off and you don't have the money for a therapist, or you can't get there fast enough, or whatever it is, right? Or they just look at you and say, how did you feel about that? Or whatever whatever it is. This for me was like my anchor when I felt like depressed, suicidal. Like it became like the thing that got me through all of the hardest times, and now keeps me on track, even really in the good times too. Because I find that like sometimes the good times, that can feel like too much as well. And I'm quick to be like, well, I don't need journaling right now. And then I'm like, well, wait, that's not any different than you can't get out of bed. It's just a high. The highs are high and the lows are low. And what I prefer feeling is like some kind of groundedness and steadiness. And so when I read what you wrote, I was like, oh my gosh, it was so beautifully put. And that's exactly why I teach it. And it's exactly what it's been for me as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you, because I think that we so frequently look for something during the darkest periods. And I just want to show people that like it also doesn't have to be dark to make the investment. Because by having this tool, if a loved one were to die, like to have it already,
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have made a difference?
Right. And it is so simple,
So
so simple and so profound. I would have never thought at all.
I can't believe I coach it. I'm like, surely people know how to do this. And what I keep hearing from people is that the way that I teach journaling, like, Angela's going to be another guest. Angela was in our Artist Way. Do you remember Angela Briones?
I think so. Was that the one that inherited the house or something like that?
Yes, she did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you'll have
Mm-hmm.
that. She has a podcast, and
That's right.
and she was like, oh, I journal. And I was like, okay, well, if you're like, that's great, like, then you don't need to do my class, like, you know how to journal, that's great. And she did anyway. And when she finished, she was like, oh, that's not what I've been doing. Because something about like, I'm like, go there, say the horrible things. Like when I hear people say to me, oh, won't that be great for your kids to have those journals and get to know you better when you're gone? I'm like, no, that is not great. Like, no, they
Right.
can't. I write some bad things about them in there, like, because it's just helpful so that I don't have to carry it around with me. I can just like let it be on the pages and see all the awfulness to get to like the good part. Do you guys do that too? Are your 3
Yeah.
pages like horrible, 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 horrible?
Yeah.
And it's like
Sometimes
it's
even the
gonna get
third
better.
page.
Wait, Josie and then Anne.
No, I say at some point I'm like, it's gotta get better. And like Ann just said, sometimes it'll go over to 4 pages until,
Oh yeah.
we reach that point. Because sometimes I'm like, okay, I still have some more to get out. Just get
Oh
it
yeah.
out. Just get it out. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. And I know, sometimes it's just, some days I'm just like, well, I don't even know that was, that feels like a waste of time. Mostly not, mostly there's something in every, in every time, but oftentimes it is the last sentence where I'm like, well, that was worth it for that one sentence, for the one sentence, right?
Kind of reminds me of meditation a little bit sometimes. Like for the first 14 minutes, it's just brain stuff, and
I
then you
just
get
this
to
morning did that.
those last couple of minutes, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, it was worth it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also it really is just like the habit. It's just, I love what you have both said about like that gift to yourself, that investment in yourself. I feel like when I make that investment in myself to start every day, it changes the trajectory, which is why I teach first thing in the morning. And Julia Cameron, who I adore, is like, it is the morning pages. Like and for a long time, I thought it was because at night there was so much garbage throughout the day that like you just had to, and some of that is true. But then when I heard her talk not long ago, she's like, it's about setting the trajectory of your day and making the investment in yourself. It changes the trajectory. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so true. Like,
I think to me, like the best investment is, I don't know if anyone else, I mean, I think probably a lot of people do, but I think what scared me into action is when you feel like you've tried everything and there's still that really
oh yeah,
restless feeling that you can't quell, that you're doing all the things but you're just not at peace. And, you know, and I'm a spiritual person. I believe in God. Like I believe in all the things, and you still like, what is it? And that conversation, I like what Josie said, that it is a form of meditation. I feel like it's meditation, it's prayer, it's like a conversation with God, the
literally where,
cosmos, whatever.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I had somebody sign up for a class of mine and then take themselves out because they said that like they thought this would conflict with their religion. And I was like, you have no idea what I teach them, because this is me teaching you how to have a relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not what I lead with, because people have all kinds of resistance to that, but it's where people get in the end. Like, I have countless testimonials of people that are very religious that have said, I feel like I'm closer to God now. I'm like, yes, because you are. Because like, God's your best friend. He's your greatest cheerleader. He, she, I never really, subscribe to the gender on that one. But it's like, it's your greatest cheerleader, and it's all for you. This is all here for you. Yeah. So thank you guys so much.
You're welcome. And I'll just add, it
That's,
kind of,
yeah.
that saying like the answers are within, go within, and you're like, what does that mean? Like, okay. And
Where?
then like
Within how?
exactly. But when you do like the simple act of like journaling, you do find that divinity within. Like there's no separation between us and God. You know what I mean? So the act of merging the two, I can see how people are like, I feel closer to God. It's just like
Yeah.
because it's there, so
Yeah.
you actually have access to that. And it
Yeah.
is a form of like meditation and grounding. And I
Yeah.
didn't know how grounding it was to journal.
Right.
So sometimes when I feel anxious, that is a way for me to like anchor in and get settled to get the information. So
Absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely. So I've been in the yoga and meditation world longer than than I've journaled. And that's one access, and it's still something that I love. But if I had to pick, I would still pick journaling, because there's something about seeing it on paper that has actions happen in a way that I don't experience with yoga and meditation. Now, my best friend is a yoga and meditation teacher, and that's what she teaches. She teaches a little bit of journaling. So I don't know that she would agree with me, but that's a different experience, and people will find it in different ways. But for me, I'm pretty stubborn. And when I see it on paper, I can't, I can't say it's a lot. Like, I have to actually deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part of journaling that has really made my actions start to line up with my soul, in my experience. It's very, very distinct from like yoga and meditation. I did not find those methodologies, while super helpful, didn't spur my actions on in the way that journaling has. And I love results. So that's why journaling for me has been the one that like I always go to.
I can see that. That makes sense.
It's literally where I make all my coaching core, all the things. I'm like, you just like, you can just be curious and play around, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
all just brainstorming. And you just get to try on, like, how would it feel if I did this? Oh, no, I don't, no, I wouldn't like that, but I might like this. You can just like be a little kid trying things out.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love you guys.
Love you too.
Okay.
Bye.
Stop recording.